Welcome to episode 4 of Behind the Curtain with me, Aaron, from Fair Spark Books and Little Heroes Comics Charity. Today we're going to be diving into the ever-expanding world that is comic podcasts. I've trawled through the digital world, listened to hours upon hours of audio, some of which were good, and then I spent literally hours trying to get this to work. I'm happy that the 4 guests have decided to stay, to be totally honest. So we probably won't have anyone in chat because we've decided to only be able to get it to work on Twitch. So, sorry, but that's where it goes. So yeah, welcome to my guest. Do you want to quickly introduce yourselves? Start with
Yes. My name's Vince Hunt. This is so weird doing it. I always find this weird being on other people's shows or podcasts. For those who don't know, I say that like everyone knows me. What the? My name's Vince Hunt. I'm a comic book creator who does a book called The Red Mouse from Mars, but I also do a podcast called The Awesome Comics Podcast, which is weekly every Monday, and not safe for work. Is it not safe for work? I don't think it is it?
It's definitely not.
No. Oh, thanks.
Okay. My name's Ian, and
I'm Nikki.
Nikki, there we go. We host the Lex International Comic Card Festival podcast. I've got no talent whatsoever in the form of comics, however.
Neither have I, so that's fine.
Okay, there we go.
Fine.
and last but not least.
I am Tom from That Comic Smell podcast. We do a bi-weekly podcast. I say bi-weekly, although I missed it this Friday, so now it's tri-weekly.
Shame on you.
Ring that bell.
Well, cheers guys for staying around during that horrible, literally an hour of trying to get that to work. Sorry.
Yeah, but Aaron, we actually do comic book podcasts. So if anyone's going to understand technical difficulties and how stressful they are, it's who you're talking to now. So
I'm going to put it down to Google just being an arse today. That's what I've decided. So thank you for joining, and we're going to talk about comic podcasts, and you all run one, so that's exciting. I don't. This is a behind the scenes comics podcast, so it's slightly different. And it's not podcast, it's visual, just to annoy you even more. So, as you can see, I'm already losing it because it's just been mental. Right, so we're going to talk about first why you guys each decided to start a podcast. So, who wants to jump in? That's anyone.
Oh dear.
On,
well, whose show started?
Who
chose? Did it?
I was going to say, it's probably Awesome Comic, I think, would be before us.
Yeah.
First in the alphabet, there you go.
There we go.
If in doubt, use the alphabet. Yeah, the Awesome Comics Podcast. What year did it start? 2015, 16? I can't remember. We've been going at it for almost 200 episodes now. And I think we started it. It was just as all these shows probably are, and I'm sure everyone else will agree with me. It just seems like a good idea at the time. Because I was just like making comics and just generally just doing my own thing. You know, obviously I got to know a lot of people on like the convention circuit, and I'm a podcast listener as well, first and foremost. So I'd listen to a lot of shows, and I listened to shows like 11 O'Clock Comics, Comic Geek Speak, and Word Balloon, and things like that. And a lot of it is all very mainstream, and you're listening to your heroes speak. But I wanted to know something a bit more about like making books and going to conventions and doing all of that stuff. And I thought, where is that show that I want to listen to? And I think it's the same with any sort of media, isn't it? You know, creating a thing that you want to listen to or that you want to see. I remember it just started off with a miniature Twitter conversation. Twitter's good for something. With Dan Butcher, who I'd only known through 140 characters or less. And I said, I'd love to listen. You know, I'd love to do a podcast one day about this. And because he does web comics, I was doing print comics, etc.
I'll have fun editing it later. Yeah, I don't know. Where was
And
I don't know what part was we up to when I disappeared? Or tried to shut
I
down?
don't know. I was probably on the second testament of my story by the time it kicked us off.
Tony had joined you. You said.
Yeah. That's it. There's a reason he's here. Yeah. So basically, I went away and found out how to do things, and said, "Should we try this out?" And in that time, I found out about hosting, etc. Blah blah blah. And then we did episode 1, and then here we are, almost 200 weeks later, still doing it. God help me. There's probably more to it than that, but last time I was halfway through this story, the internet cut us off. So I'm not
Yeah, I'm just not going to touch anything no more. So if anyone's chatting to me or anything, I'm not going to know. So yeah. So how about you guys?
I'll let you take it. You want to take it? No,
it's
you want me to take it?
It's your
mine.
story.
It's mine, is it?
Oh,
Right,
your
okay.
story.
It's his story.
That makes it sound far more interesting than it is, that's for sure. I was a huge podcast host, which I think a lot of podcasters are out there. They start out, as Vince was saying, you start out listening to podcasts on whatever genre, and there's something about them that just drags you in. And I just wanted to do a podcast, didn't I? So we set up a geeky podcast, House of Geek, or Play 2 Cast. We changed it multiple times.
The names did change a lot.
The problem is there is hundreds upon thousands upon millions of your standard geeky podcasts out there, and we just wanted an angle. I think that was the initial thing. Ours is very different, I think, to most podcasts, because we are linked directly to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival, and I've been a friend with the director for many years, and after I introduced you first time to the event, I thought, you know what, let's just give it a go. Let's see if they're interested in having someone take the reins and do a promotional podcast for the event. Yeah, for some reason they said yes to us. God knows why, because we just did a podcast on the old show, didn't we, about the event, and it seemed to hit home. So, so the plan was always to be a promotional show for the Lakes Festival. However, let's be honest, that wouldn't be very interesting. So, sort of evolved very quickly to
I'm glad you don't work for the tourist board.
Don't come and look at our lovely lakes.
So it sort of evolved from, yes, we are there, we are publicising the festival, but we've got to give content. There's no point without that content there. So, but the great thing about having that link to the festival was the guests that we could get on the show through that, which we wouldn't have had a chance with some of the names, certainly back when we started. So that has been the amazing thing from this whole 2 years, nearly 50 episodes.
There you go.
Yeah, twice a month, not every week. So there you go. That's our excuse.
Can you imagine trudging?
So that's our story, and it's been an enjoyable 2 years so far. That's for sure.
Nice. Well, the way this has gone tonight, I might not come back for a fifth. So your 200 is worth it. So how about you, Tom?
Well, much like yourselves, I was massively into podcasts. I'd been listening to them for a long, long time and trying to start up my own for a while, and just basically kind of looking for people to do it with. But as David from the podcast quite aptly pointed out, I already had a podcast crew there. We just kind of had to turn the mic on. We had been meeting up for months on end as like a comic book reading group, and it just kind of evolved from there. So once that mic was turned on, that was it. You know, we were off and running basically. You know, and it's just being kind of behind the kind of podcast nature and that constant content output of like just good conversation is just what fuels it, what keeps it going. It's good. And then obviously meeting everybody along the way has just been a total plus. It's just fantastic. But yeah, it's much the same, just kind of being big on comics and podcasts.
Yeah, you do need. You need to have something else, though. I mean, we've all listened to like a lot of those, like Ian said, a lot of those geek sort of shows, and there's a million podcasts for comics. There, and like certainly most of them focus on the weekly release of Marvel and DC. And if you want people coming back week on week or bi-weekly or something like that, you have to give them something else. You know, hopefully your personalities will do a certain amount of the work, or lack of personality.
No, we have to get good guests on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think if you've got some sort of hook or something a little bit different to offer, then it's surprising how quickly people latch on and you gain an audience. I think you get an audience. Don't ask me.
It's funny what people pick out about your podcast that they like that you've maybe not thought about before. Like a lot of folks going about to us like, oh yeah, it's just because it's a bunch of pals getting together. Now that's not the kind of main thing that I started thinking about. I thought it will be the comics chat that gets everybody going for it, but they're like, oh no, it's it's just the mates getting together that really pulls it in.
Yeah,
I never even thought that would be the case.
Well, Sam Webster in chat. We've actually got some people in chat now, which is good. Sam Webster said, tactically made sure the Awesome Comics banner was in the shot there, Vince. So
yes.
He did have to pay extra to have advertising in the slot, but it's fine.
You're wearing your t-shirt.
Yeah, t-shirt.
You can't see it.
I mean, are we essentially saying that podcasters are shameless? Absolutely shameless in our self-promotion.
Yeah, you can, right? So if someone's just come here because I've accidentally put that I'm playing pirate gaming, they're going to be like, "What the hell?" And then got another person potentially. So
do we have to do pirate voices
let
though?
them out.
Yeah, if you want.
That's the sound of a man defeated.
Wasn't it?
You've been there, Vince. You've been there. You know.
Oh, tell me about it. I still actually get condolences about one episode that went wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'm recording these, so I'm just gonna have to piece together some semblance of an actual conversation at the end. So.
I've been there.
But which is funny because the next question is literally, what is your setup like? So maybe I'll just be taking advice from you guys from now on. No live videos, pre-recording, voice only. Yeah.
Who wants to take this one?
Go on, we'll go.
Go on,
first, shall we? First, what we started with, and this is sort of advice for any newbies out there, and I can see Vince is probably rocking the same thing by looks from the back of it. This piece of kit, the blue snowball. The blue snowball.
I've got one too.
They, if you're starting out, they are probably the best thing you can get because they are so cheap and they will allow multiple people.
Yeah, they can't hear you now. You turned it around there. Well, actually,
no, you can. You can hear it from all the way around.
All the way.
However, we've sort of advanced from that. So we've gone to a mixer setup now. Mixer setup, 2 speakers, which allows us to get a much clearer voice and a much clearer tone for 2 people. They're fine for individual people if you're on your own, or as Vince does, chats while other people in different locations. That's absolutely brilliant. But for us, it didn't quite get the right sound. Alexis mixer, 2 mics. I'm not going to go into all the details, mainly because I've got no idea what I'm talking about. And the biggest challenge I think we had was setting that up to work with Skype.
Yes.
Initially, that took a long time, a lot of hassle. But once you got your head around it,
was it as long as setting up this stream?
I'm going to say it was longer.
No, I didn't have a beard when we started tonight.
And that is it. So mix a couple of mics and a laptop, and you're away.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even that expensive. Even that's not expensive. So it's great.
If you go online and look at articles, they'll try and shill you like kit that's like hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and you don't. Ridiculous. Yeah, you don't need it. As long as you the way you set up your show, and you're not recording it in like a shed in the middle of like a tornado, then you should be all right most of the time.
Well, that rules us out then.
went out and bought the snowball after I was on your one, Vince, for the first time, and I listened back and thought, yeah, I should probably get something that actually sounds decent if I'm going to be on these from now on.
Yeah.
So, and then I got this.
Well, when I
the little thing to.
Always important.
Yeah, and that was only like, I mean, I got the same sort of thing, and that was only £7 from Amazon or something like that. One of those. When I started mine, it was literally because I just used like a Mac laptop sort of thing, and the mic was okay. So the first I don't know, it must have been about 50 episodes or something like that. I was just using the internal mic, and it seemed to work out fine. But it just went up a level when I got the Snowball mic. Yeah. I just thought I just want a cleaner sort of sound, and it really does help actually. Although I don't have some people get microphone arms and things like that. You can't see it right now, but there's two large books. One of them is an encyclopedia of tanks. So that's how glamorous I am. Yeah, but that's purely because so I could get the mic, and this was learning as well from the first couple of weeks when I started using the microphone. Is where the microphone kind of has to be near you to get the best sort of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm still learning that, so.
What was that?
I'm still learning. Well, I literally just John Tucker. It just said in chat, "Aaron, you're dead quiet, pal." So just proving it. John, you're lucky I'm even here.
Oh man.
God.
So on the same lines of setting up the podcast, so you've set it up. You've got your lovely blue Snowball microphone, and you've got some people kindly to sit around and talk to you. After recording, where did you guys first start putting your podcasts online, and where do you do them now, and what's the whole process around that? Because I know that it can be quite daunting for people that have just started out. So
it's fairly easy actually. That's the thing. There's so many sites out there that take the whole process and make it so easy. So we started using Podbean, which is probably the best, straightforward, simple website you can use. You pay a monthly fee. I think it's about £7 off the top of my head. There's no issue in file size. There's no issues in how much you upload. You stick it up there. Once you've set it up, i.e. you've put your logo on there, what have you, hit send, and it does it all for you. So it'll get it into, I think, does it do iTunes automatically? I'm sure it does.
Yeah, you need to set up because Podbean gives you the RSS feed.
That's right, and you send that to
iTunes. But also the way that goes out now, Podbean sets it up so you can go on Spotify as well, and YouTube, which is something I've just started doing. If you've got a verified sort of email account, a Google account, then it will automatically upload it. You need to, if you want extra graphics for it, you got to go in and do that yourself. But then it goes on YouTube as well. I don't know how it reads those those hits or anything like that. But yeah, Podbean was definitely when I started, it is literally I knew nothing, so it was a Google search. Do you know what I mean? To see which one seemed the best. And yeah, Podbean just sort of had it all there, and the most important thing is it's just easy to use. Because I don't want anything. Some people go really technical with their pages, and but if you're trying to do something regular and you've got a full-time job and you've got all these other things going on, you want something that you can use fairly simply and easy.
Totally.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just stressful enough just bloody recording the bloody thing. Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to shut down.
Yeah. What do you use then, Tom?
We upload them to SoundCloud, and like that, it's just linked to absolutely everything. So it's linked to the Spotify, the iTunes, everything like that. But I actually put them independently on YouTube. I didn't know that you could link it to YouTube just to upload.
I don't know if SoundCloud does. I mean, I know there's a lot of podcasts that do use SoundCloud, but like I say, that's not one that I didn't follow that avenue. I'm sure SoundCloud does.
I don't even know why we used SoundCloud, to be honest. I think it was just kind of the first one that came to mind. I'd been listening to bands and stuff, and I'd seen a couple of podcasts go up, so I thought, I'll just chuck it up there. And then it gave me the option from there to put it onto iTunes, and I thought, okay, this is going to be the easiest way of doing it, and just independently done a thing for YouTube. But we're well behind on YouTube now because of having to do that independent one, it takes so much longer to do a video file for that, you know. So I might actually look into that by putting it straight from.
I'm not going to go back to our whole back catalogue and do it. It's just I think it started like probably about 6 weeks ago. I'm not going to go back and do all those other episodes. I'm sorry, YouTube.
The only trouble with your one, Vince, on YouTube is it will never be advertiser friendly, so you're never going to get that sweet money. So.
I don't need it. I mean, look at the palace. I'm making it rain, son.
He's making walls out of posters.
Oh God.
So
this is why I don't do video weekly.
Yeah, well, last time I had Dan on and he was in his pajamas, so there we go.
What a show that was.
So, obviously, your podcast, it gets put on all those places, but which one do you find you get the most views from? Do you know, or do you not know that information? Or do you just
hard to tell.
Does Podbean just amalgamate it into like one number? Does it?
Yeah, it sort of puts it all together. At the moment, Spotify, it's doing Spotify separately.
Okay.
Which I find quite interesting just to see, because I use Spotify for music, etc. You know, and podcasts. That's what I use to listen to stuff now. So it's just a personal thing where I find that quite interesting. Who's listening to what, and people going back to a lot of the older episodes, which I find fascinating. Like, you know, we've had like 10 hits on episode 93 recently. So I thought, I can't even remember 93. Let alone.
That might be me. Yeah, sorry. I have been going back.
But I think it just amalgamates all the others, and I think it will put the Spotify numbers with everything else eventually. But you know, I'd love to know where they're individually, you know, recording stuff from, you know, downloading from.
I think that's a plus with SoundCloud, is that it tells you all the individual places where they come from. So what people are using, what apps, what countries, stuff like that. But it actually takes each one. Since we went on Spotify, there has been somebody who's been quite consistent in going back and listening to the episodes, because it keeps coming up. It's like all the older episodes and then it coming up saying Spotify. So that's kind of a plus for SoundCloud in that respect. But yeah, I think it'd probably be, I think most people kind of listen to it through iTunes. It comes up iTunes most of the time, or picking up links from the Twitter.
Yeah,
I guess
so
that's the good.
We're using.
Go on.
Sorry. So we use Spreaker now. We don't actually use Podbean, but unfortunately they don't give any sort of information until you go on the upper level, the upper tier. So yeah, not sure.
What is it, like Scientology?
Yeah. We'll invite you in.
200 grand.
Be one of the pod people.
Well, Sam Webster just said that Podbean is free, $9 a month, $29 a month, and $99 a month. God, I wonder what you get that $99. Bloody hell.
I think, and there is a massive difference in sort of audience numbers when it comes to UK and the US, for instance. That's automatically, and also the genre of stuff you're doing. I'd imagine that D&D podcasts are all the rage at the moment. So, and for instance, the $9.99 a month, that's the one that we do, and that gives us sort of like unlimited sort of bandwidth for downloads and stuff. So that's essentially all you need. You know, you can put as many episodes as you want, you know, and people can download it as much as you want. And you can, the important thing is you can personalize your page as well. So you can't do that with the free.
Yeah, because I've got the free one at the moment, so mine's just that really horrible default page or whatever. Do you remember like MySpace and it was like Tom, like
Tom. Still friends with him? No. But I think don't pay for anything unless you're willing to keep going with podcasting, because you've got to remember this money's going to come out of your account every month. You know.
Yeah, and I guess it's been quite good if you've just started putting your stuff on Spotify, because you're going to reach a new audience. And like you say, you might start getting hits on the older stuff because they're going to start looking through the titles of your old episodes and pick stuff out. So do you guys put any thought into your titles, or is it just the guest and that's it? Or do you really...
With us, it's purely the guest, because we feel that that is what I want people to be brought in by. You know, if they're searching online, I want them to, you know, Pat Mills, for example. Yeah. Pat Mills is on the episode. hopefully
Clickbait.
that'll bring them to everything else. Clickbait, essentially, yeah.
Totally.
Pat Mills is the sexy clickbait.
Yeah.
So yeah, to us that was simple. It was just a name.
Yeah, ours is just the topic. Usually, it's just whatever the topic's been. I think we've had an occasional one, like we'll put featuring whoever when we've got somebody guesting on, but it is usually just the topic 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, and ours is it's kind of the topic. I always put like who the guest is, so it'll be like an episode name and then with whoever that is. I try to make it fairly simple. I mean, I do laugh. I do love shows that have some ridiculous, humorous title. But most of the time we're sticking to the, comic book printing and nonsense with such and such, and I find that certainly helps. I mean, a title can be really important because people are searching for that. So if, with our show, if someone wants to know about comic book coloring, that has to be in the title because they'll immediately go to that episode, and listen to it. Whereas sometimes if it's just the three of us, we just say, it's just comic talk, that's when I can be a little bit looser with the titling. But if it's a guest, I don't go too crazy. Apart from when James McCulloch was on, because there were so many F words, I had to put something funny in the title. So, love you, James.
So, obviously, you, Vince, have been, what did you say, it's almost 200, isn't it? And then you guys at Late said it's, what do you say, 50-something? And Tom, I can't remember how many you said. But, so, 40. So how do you guys keep coming up with ideas, and how do you convince the guests to keep coming on? Mainly for my own personal, I need to know this one for next week.
Well, you've always got to, I don't know, there's always got to be something you want to know more about. Certainly with our show, I'm always trying to think of something new and fresh for people to talk about. Because if we were a Marvel and DC show, we would have run that dry years ago. Whereas and because we talk to a lot of independent creators, everyone's got their own way of working. That's what I like about it. Everyone does something different. Everyone's got a new way of thinking about stories. So it's always entertaining because I've gotten to know a lot of these people on the convention circuit as well. So I know that they're going to be entertainment every time. So, and we're very much because the nature of our show. I don't know what it's like with your guys' shows, but when we're at conventions, people come up and say, "Oh, I'd love to be on the show at some time," or people naturally come up to you and sort of say, "I'd love to be a guest" or whatever, and that's lovely. That's wonderful. It's great to know that people want to be involved. But I very much have to be in the sort of mindset of we're going to ask the guests, because if we were doing a show every day, we'd talk to everyone, but we can't because we're doing it every week. So we have to be very much quite harsh in the mindset of like, right, let's schedule these shows, let's ask these people, and because there's three of us, we're throwing ideas around for who wants to talk to who. So there's a lot of it's probably the most organized thing in my life. I'm not organised with anything else. I've got an Excel spreadsheet for this, and I hate Excel. It's terrible. So that's ours anyway.
I think we're quite lucky having the festival as well.
Yeah.
We just pinch their guests.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. They plan the festival, and we just pinch the guests, and we'll just because they're involved, they generally want to come on and talk about what's going on. And that makes it. It's like cheating almost.
No, don't say that.
Well, it is.
It's easy. There's a lot of thoughts and effort goes into it, not just, we'll have this.
We'll have that person, yeah. And then other than that, like Vince says, it's who we want to be on the show. Who's got an interesting book coming out, or who's showing off the stuff, and we'll have a chat with them. And it's got to be something, I think, that excites us as well, or there's just no point. We've got to be really interested in that creator for whatever they're bringing out or whatever they have brought out. I think that's vital. But as far as topics go, we don't really have a topic as such, do we, per episode? We're quite lucky in that we don't have to think.
We don't think.
We even went to the extent of having, as Tom is now involved, contributors who do half the work for us.
And am I right in saying his first one was the last episode?
that is it. We are now shut
Yes.
down.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Oh, well,
No,
yeah.
No more.
We just
Once again,
go
ring
on.
the shame bell. That's it, shame bell.
Yeah, shame bell. We just had a couple of people say a couple of things in chat. So Danley B said, well, how do you handle reviews of comics which you don't rate that highly? Well, that's an interesting one. Like, do you even do it? You don't, do you?
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't
do it.
Yeah,
No.
don't do it. I'm very much in the mindset of just want positive sort of talk.
Yeah.
That you can be constructive in your criticism. You can sort of say, oh, well, the lettering was a little off on this, but I like the rest of it. You know, I won't talk about it if I'm just going to just slag it off. It's just not. You know, what's the point? You know, if I wanted all this negativity, I'd be on Twitter 24/7.
I am, and I still don't want it.
yeah. And sometimes you're like, oh, you just get tired. Whereas I think, you know, your show has to. I think if you're positive and you're enthusiastic about the medium, then people will want to buy these books. You know, people will. You know, I know from everyone here when they've talked about books, I've then gone out and seek them out and then pick them up for myself, and that's kind of what you want, isn't it, really? You know,
Yeah.
Everyone likes to think that their recommendation is worth something. I'm going to recommend that I shut up now. That's
I mean, the thing we do on the website is we make it clear that if you're sending a comic to us, it doesn't mean it's going to get a review.
Yeah.
And that is not just whether it's good or bad. We just don't have the time because we do get sent a lot of stuff, which is brilliant. And please keep sending it, but we can't guarantee we'll have the time to give it that review because we can't
you've
just
also got the stuff that you want to read as well, haven't you? You know, you've got your own pull list and stuff. Yeah.
Is that why you're always ignoring my emails? Oh, I see. Right.
No one says anything. I love that.
Right, where's that delete button gone? What's that? Sam said, what happens if a guest turns out to be cringe mid-show? Or, in your defense, guys, what happens if your host turns out to be shit halfway through?
Don't worry, Aaron. It wasn't halfway through.
Straight off the bat.
Yeah.
But have you guys ever been in that situation where you started recording and someone was not quite, like, you had to drag them along a bit too much, or you don't have to name names, just say
we've not had a case where we've had to drag somebody along. We've had an instance where somebody's kind of taken over a wee bit and it's kind of trying to rein it in, kind of. It's fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great to have them talking as much, but it just became like their whole show kind of thing, and that was it. And we did have a topic, and it's like, I don't know if this is going to go out because it's just he's talking over everybody and stuff, but it worked. It was fine. But yeah, it's I won't name any names, but yeah.
we had one not bad interview, but it was a bit meh. It was hard work. Yeah. But you just got to go with it. Yeah, you've just got to try your best, and if it means it's only 15 minutes, it's 15 minutes. But you don't want to. You don't want to say to them, you know, you don't want to not put it out either. That's the thing. They're giving you their time. Yeah. Whether they are what you need or want in the end, they're still giving their time up. So totally, you just got to go with it. Just got to go with it and do the best you can. And you also have to make sure you don't make mistakes with guests when you start chatting to them, such as big name guests.
So good at this.
And don't use Wikipedia.
And then don't do the same thing twice in the middle of the call.
Yes, don't cock up. Don't cock up when you're speaking to Ian Rankin about books. No, don't do it.
I like it when you messed up and then you say, "I'll cut that bit out," and you go, "No, I'm leaving that bit in." They're the bits I like.
Yeah, I listen to so many podcasts where they go, "I'll just edit that bit out," and no one ever does.
No one ever does. You want to keep in.
It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, it's also a lot of work editing. We've had a couple that are slightly harder work. You can tell within the first couple of minutes if you're going to be all right. I think, and or if even like some of the ones that it's all our show's very casual. It is pretty much just to talk down the coffee shop or down the pub or whatever. So we get people coming on thinking, oh, I'm quite nervous. I'm not. They think they're going to be more nervous than they are, and within 5 minutes they realise, oh, this is okay. And when people sort of loosen up and just start talking more casually, that's when you get just absolute gold out of people most of the time. There are some people that are a little when they're shorter with their answers. And you have that not dead air. We haven't really suffered from too much dead air, thankfully. We've been very fortunate with all the people that we've got, but maybe some of the more and I think when it's people that aren't really aware of your show or your product, just say, and I don't have anything specific, but just say you had a Marvel. A Marvel publisher or an editor, and they're coming on and they're not really aware of what you do, and they're very professional in the way they're talking about things, so you're not quite sure what you can talk about. And sometimes it's like, well, do you like red or do you like blue? Yes. Okay. And then you have to keep going. But I mean, I'm lucky in the fact that like I've got Dan and Tony with me as well, so normally there's someone to sort of pick up the slack or sort of answer a question, And I found myself just out of nowhere sometimes thinking it's gone quiet a bit, and then I'll jump in with a question that just comes out of nowhere. But I think everyone's had those moments. Just in life, as soon as you start talking to someone, you think it's gonna be hard work.
Do you folks find it harder or easier having Skype conversations though? Because obviously we sit with the folks. We have people around. We don't really do Skype interviews. Like I might end up doing them on my own eventually in the far distant future, but we tend to have them in. Do you think it's easier or harder having them at the end of a phone?
I don't think. I mean, we've only done a few face to face.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes a difference. The only thing is you can get rid of them quicker when they're on Skype.
Yeah, and also, like, if it's just a Skype audio call, no one will see you do this.
Well, that gets me worried about when we were speaking.
Yeah, Vince has, like, one of those things you can press that have little buttons that have different voice commands. So he just randomly asks you questions from those. He's gone asleep and... Just
yeah. I'm actually not there.
Yeah. It's like my biggest thing at the moment is not the guests, it's the guests' friends. For example, Tony just every episode now sends me screenshots of whoever my guests are with speech bubbles above them.
Has he done that?
You're not the only...
He's done it. I've got one that has a picture of you, Vince, that just says, "I wish I had pants on."
I think I said that though.
Yeah, look, there it is.
Oh,
Did Vince get biscuits? But yeah, Dan Levy in chat said they've had it where they've burnt through hours worth of questions in 10 minutes. Oh, yeah. Have you had that?
Only with that one, I think, for us. That's a bit. Generally, we've been quite lucky, so very lucky, in fact.
Yes.
Yeah. It all depends on the length of your show as well, doesn't it? Really. I mean, we run a bit long, so if that happened to us, we'd be like, oh my god. But saying that, in my show, I normally every week I only have, and this probably comes across in how unprofessional it is. I only have one question written in front of me. The rest of it is all. It flows from the conversation that I'm having with the person. So, unless there's a specific thing, if I'm a big fan of this creator and I want to know about a specific, like, where they hosted the webcomic or something like that, I'll write that down as a note. But most of the time it's usually like, how did you get started in comics? And then we're off to the races. And that's normally why it's so casual. And because then I'm listening, and then the questions that I'm asking are genuinely because I want to know the answer. It's not like... Yeah. And I've heard interviews where people are just reading from a script, so there's no, someone gives a really interesting answer and then it's not followed up, and that's that's really frustrating. It's like, well, the interviewer clearly doesn't care, so what's the point?
It's either that or they're like so stricken with nerves that they can't help but just read off of a bit of paper shaking in front of them. Like,
I'm sorry. Hold on.
No, you just turn us off. That's all.
Yeah. That's what really happens. I run out of questions. Bam, off. No, I have a list of questions because one, I'll forget what I'm supposed to ask. My memory is like really bad. But also I put the question out for other people to ask around these specific subject areas, so it's good to have them written down. But yeah, so not too bad. So moving on to my list of questions, I've got one that's like, what's your highlight and what's a nightmare from your podcast? I guess that's kind of, the nightmare is kind of what we said before about bad guests, but what would you say your highlight was? Do you have anything in particular that's like the standout for you?
I'm just going to do a quick nightmare before we go to highlights because I've got to bring this up.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, hold on.
Never forget. Now we're quite lucky with the person this happened to, but never forget to press record on your portable recorder when you're chatting to somebody face to face on location.
Yeah.
No, Skype's not. It's when you've arranged, you've actually gone out, you've met somebody in a different town, face to face. Luckily, it was only good old John Freeman, who is a wonderful guy, and he lives down the road.
Yes.
But that taught us letters straight away, didn't it? You know,
he did tell you off.
He did tell me off. I got an email. We'll do it again, but
my fee's gone up 4 times.
From 0 to 0. Yes.
We've had a nightmare like that where it's not recorded, and one of ours was we were meant to be doing a special on all the Avery Hill books that they'd sent us out, and it was the first ever time they'd sent it out, and we were like really behind it. We did like 2.5 hours of just solid going through the books. It was amazing, and then got to the very end and found out that the hard drive hadn't been plugged in the whole time. And you'll see there's a 2-part Avery Hill special in our episodes where I had to go around each of the guys' houses and get their individual interviews and patch them together and then turn it into a 2-parter. Oh, it was because they'd already waited long enough. I was like, no, I need to get these out. Nightmare. And just that sick feeling, like, oh god.
It is that when things haven't recorded, that's when the biggest nightmare happens. I mean, and that's what mine is, obviously. And I know the episode specifically because we did our own anthology, like Awesome Comics. We actually made a comic for ourselves, and I thought, well, in the lead up to it, you know, it might be nice for someone to come on and ask us questions about it. And in fact, later on down the road, Tom did that for us, and like, you know, that was hugely enjoyable. But we were going to do it before episode 1, so we had Is McAuliffe on, and she was brilliant, asked loads of great questions. You know, it was so nice to be on the other side of questions, and then everyone hung up, and I looked, and it just didn't record. And you know, and my lovely fiance Jo probably thought that the world had ended because I was just going, "This is ridiculous," and I was just screaming and hollering, and she was like, "What's happened? It didn't record." And then she was like, "What?" And then I messaged the guys and said it didn't record, you know. And Tony, God bless him, he was like, would you want to just do half an hour, you know, because we like to put at least something out every week. Just I think there was only 1 week I missed one, and that was because the internet just completely went out. But so we recorded this half hour that that people, I don't, God knows what I sounded like, because people were giving me condolence messages for
they're doing it in chat now as well, so
thank you to everyone that cared. It was so, if I think about it now I can laugh about it, but I wasn't then. Yeah, so that was the nightmare. I think everything else is just, you know, technical difficulties and stuff. You just deal with those. That's just part and parcel. And now I'm at a point where you put a lot of pressure on yourself as well. Like, I think I put so much pressure on, like, putting out a show week on week. That's why I completely had a meltdown when it didn't happen. And now I'm like, well, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, you know, because we're putting out free content for people. So You know, they should be grateful.
Well, you know, I do enjoy my Monday evenings on the way home because pretty much everyone releases on a Monday, so I just have a good few hours of just listening to good people.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think Monday's a good day for it?
I don't know.
Because you have the weekend to record, I suppose, for a lot of people, isn't it? It's
yeah.
Get it sorted
like,
out.
we don't. We're different. Yeah.
Rebellious.
Well, as you guys now know, I obviously just do it randomly based on whatever the situation is for everyone's time frames to get them all to be on the same time, because it's quite hard trying to get obviously 3 or 4 people in one go to agree to the same time. But yeah, I guess you guys are lucky that you just have the same people every week who are now in there. Institutionalized on that time.
Yeah, when you have a guest, then you just need to schedule, because we have that lockdown. We're recording at this time on the same day. We're fairly, fluid with it if we need to be, but because we have that, we record at like 7:30 on a Sunday. I can always say to a guest, we record at this time. Are you okay with this? And that's good, because then I only have to organise one person, if you know what I mean. I know the other guys will hopefully be there.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay, so just so that Vince doesn't have another breakdown, what's your highlight?
Go on, do you want to take this one? No, I'll take this one then. This is a show. This is it. This is what we do. When everything is, she shows up and
that's all I need to do is just show up.
So I think well, someone's got to make this good place look good, because it's not me. The highlight is definitely, since we started, the people that we've met, the people that we've chatted to, people that we would never dream of. I mean,
people that we could just call by their first names.
Yeah.
Drop just the first names in.
Probably because you can't remember their surnames.
That's just down to age. It's nothing else.
But yeah, I mean, we've had some guests on that we'd never believe.
Ian Livingston.
Ian Livingston.
That was the one
my
that blew
dream.
our minds.
It's the guy who created Final Fantasy books. He's just amazing. But also, just I think the other thing, as well as meeting all these guests, is when you have people come up to you, who you never spoke to on Twitter or anything, and just saying, "I love your show," or "I like this," and that is just amazing.
Yeah, because all we're doing is talking each side of a dining room table.
Yeah. But I think that's it. So meeting people, just generally, that is what the podcast is great for.
Yeah, it's definitely the people, isn't it?
Yeah, I got to agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
had that at Dunfermline just there, like going up to the table and just even mentioning the name, and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy." I'm like, "Oh, thanks very much."
Did they say it with a happy voice?
You're that guy.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing. Oh, you're that guy.
Yeah. Oh God, it's that guy. No, and we've been very fortunate as well. It is because you're in a bubble, aren't you? Really, when you're doing, because we just do these little shows, and then it's really surprising when people come up and go, "Oh yeah, I've heard. I listened to your show." You're like, really? And you never know anyone, because no one ever has their photo as their Twitter profile or anything. So you're like, and you are, but they're talking to you like they know you because they listen to you. So it's like, okay. And at what point do you ask them their name?
You don't. You just hope to like pick up things that they're saying and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
I've just gone by the upfront thing of just saying I don't remember anyone's names ever, and I don't remember them either. That way, I don't lose. Just expect me to not remember your name. Thank you.
Aaron Rackley and other people. Yeah, but I mean, with our show as well, because we've there's been a nice little community that built up around the Awesome Pod, and we can't take any credit for it whatsoever, because it's been the people that listen to the show have come together, just a community by itself. I mean, because we didn't want people sort of post, no one was posting on the Facebook page, for instance, because a Facebook sort of a bland Facebook sort of radio page, no one's going to post on there. So we decided to just set up a group, and that took off in this little community. And that's nothing to do with us. We just set up the page, and then it's the people that get involved. So everyone involved in that community has just been amazing, and friendships have been made, and comics have been made because of it. People that from different sides of the world have come together and started creating comics together, and that I never ever thought that would happen. When I just thought, oh God, let's see if Skype works, on episode 1. So that will be the thing I'm probably most proud of, and people actually sort of picking up books that they had never known about before. It's great. It's great knowing that, and for the guests as well. I can always say that to the guests that, our following, people will go out. If you're good on this show, you'll sell your work. It's as simple as that. If you come across really well, people will go, I need to check out this person's work now. Yeah. And we've been told off because people have spent a lot of money because of us. But it's all worth it. It's all worth it.
Yeah, I think it's really nice from the view that I've had, because I've only been listening to comic podcasts for just over a year now. So it's always nice when you guys kind of cross each other, when you have each other on. I'm seeing that's quite nice. Keeps that little community together, which is really cool. Yeah. John Tucker has just put in the chat saying, where's it gone? It's just scrolled right down. He said, I was very concerned that I would die my ass off on the ACP and it would be all over in 40 minutes, but luckily there's good patter from the host side and my episode went the usual 2 hours odd. Thanks, ACP. So there you go. Have a nice little feel good. Don't let that smile get too big.
And then some people are thinking, 2 hours? Jesus.
And now he's saying, just to add more to it, he's saying that he hasn't done a show since where somebody don't come up to him and tell him they heard him on the show. So you're basically just, you've got to start charging people now, it seems, if you're...
Well, that's not. Thank you, John. That was very nice. And John knows I love him. It's a love that dare not speak its name, but yeah.
Well, no, I like that. I like the fact that everyone had the same highlight, and it's people. And for a lot of us, that's why we do what we do in any aspect of what we do. It's because we want people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whatever we create, totally. Whether that's a podcast, comic, I don't know.
Yeah.
My shoes, I don't know, something. But
your shoes.
Well,
I need to know more about this.
Well, I might make some. Hold on. No, I don't.
You're gonna make your own shoes?
I might have to at some point. I go through shoes like there's no tomorrow. I got wide flat feet, so I walk through
Man
shoes
of the people,
every week.
Man of the people, cobbler. God,
yeah.
there's no end.
But anyone want any advice? But so what have you guys got coming up on your pods? I know you, Vince, have got that special 200 episode coming.
Yeah.
Are you nervous? Because there's going to be an audience with tomatoes.
Yeah, we're doing episode 200 is coming up, and everything around our show starts with one thing. We have a WhatsApp group between me, Dan, and Tony, and normally all the ideas start with, shall we do this? Shall we do this? So I did literally think, well, episode 200, when rather than do like a clip show, I will never do a clip show because that's a lot of work. I thought, well, let's do something a bit different, but it's not live. I want to do a live show, but it's not going to be live as such. How about I pop up to London and we record somewhere? Because Dan and Tony are both sort of local to London, whereas I live in Bath. So, because it was episode 200, it was like, oh, let's make something of it. So yeah, Tony found a venue. God bless him. He went on the search and found the two chairmen, I think.
Yeah.
Which is like 20 minutes from Victoria bus station, because I've already done my research. And yeah, it's easy to get to, and basically we reserved like the sort of bar, the room up the first floor of the bar. So but it's not going to be, there's not going to be fireworks or stuff like this. It'll be a similar sort of setup I have every week. Well, there might be pyro as you walk into the room. That would be amazing.
Want it to be like wrestling entrances.
Yeah,
That's what I'm expecting.
I'll bring one of those candles you can't blow
Goldberg,
out.
like Steve's just coming out of my mouth.
And spandex. Please tell me there's spandex.
Oh, jeez.
No. Come on, Nikki. No one wants that, Nikki, for God's sake.
He's wearing it now. He just got.
Yeah.
Oh. Gold.
Yeah, so we should just go rock up, and we've got it between 12 and 5, and the whole idea is like we're going to record. We're going to have several things. I'm going to have the laptop, a few recorders. So hopefully something will pick up some kind of show. But it was also a chance to sort of say, let's just hang out with some people. If you're in the area, then pop by and we'll have a laugh. We'll be there from 12 till 5. We'll record between probably 2:30 and 4, and it's going to be a very loose sort of Three Amigos show where there'll be a live studio audience in a sense. When I say live studio audience, probably 3 people that turn up, but but whoever turns up is gonna get a badge. Ooh. I've got badges.
Yes.
Yeah. So
looking forward to my badge.
Yeah.
Optimistic.
Yes, I'm looking forward to embracing you, Tom. Like physically hugging you.
I'm all up for that, man.
Yeah. And I hope this isn't used as evidence. Yeah. So that's episode 200. Just episode 200, which is probably our first sort of biggest thing like this. So we'll see how it goes. We're not going to put too much pressure on it. If it works, we'll do something like this again. But at the very least, it's there'll just be a group of really cool people in the same area just talking about comics for about 6 hours. And what's wrong with that? Do you know what I mean?
True.
So, and that's on May the 4th, which is free comic. Yeah, it's free comic book day. So there's no excuse if you're getting your comic books.
That's why no one's going to turn up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I did notice she only had 10 badges in that bag, so.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We've got other things planned. For instance, we're going to be at MCM London. God help us. But we're really looking forward to that, and we've got convention appearances. But yeah, episode 200 is the next big thing for us. So there you go.
I was about to say, you really should have gone last, because that just shows us up in a big style.
I could bake a cake for our next episode.
Yeah, so
the Great British Pod Off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
At MCM, I expect cakes from every single one of you. Thank you very much.
Why am I baking now?
I think the only thing we sort of is the events we're going to this year, which isn't a massive amount, but so we always like to record at events. That's something we really enjoy doing, getting those interviews on the shop floor. So we've got NCM Manchester as a plan, Oldham Comic Con, Mac Power in Macclesfield, and obviously the Lakes International Comic Art Festival. Surprise, we'll be there. And hopefully for the first time, Thought Bubble this year, maybe.
Yes.
Popping down to see the new venue. So.
Nice one.
Yeah, fingers crossed we will be there. Other than that, the only guest we've currently got coming up is Hannah Berry on the new UK Comic Laureate. I think that's about it for the rest of the year.
It is, yeah.
Plus other guests to be announced, to be discussed with, to be arranged.
To be captured.
Please, come on.
I've noticed that you guys have a lot of the same guests, so you just like hoarding them around in a truck to each location, one after the other. Just like you've done that podcast.
Oh God, guys, he knows about the truck.
I'm also going to disagree with that. I don't think we do.
No. I have noticed that. I do look at other people's podcasts and go, they might be a good guest. And then I listen, and then if the guest actually sounds good, it's a good way of vetting future guests. Yeah.
Screen your guests through us.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm going to say is, I think certainly these 3 podcasts here, and quite a lot throughout the UK scene, we don't. Yeah, obviously there's going to be some crossovers, but they are so different shows that we seem to pull different guests and different people on the show, which it just shows how individual they are. They're not the same old nerd shows that we have. They are all very individual and very different, even though they are talking about generally the same topic, which is small press comics or comics that aren't your Marvel or DC. So I think that's probably a big positive, that we are so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of us are going to talk about Arrow for 20 minutes.
Oh.
I probably have to watch so much about it all.
It's just a
I
unified
got depressed
society.
even just hearing Arrow. We've got Charles H. Raymond. We had him on the pod on Friday before the Dunfermline Con, so he came through. So we've just got that coming up in. I said 2 weeks, but I'm debating whether to put that out before the one I was meant to put out on Friday. So I'm not too sure, but I'll wait and see. But we've got that one coming up, and apart from that, it's just arranging loads of different people to come by and drop by and see what dates match them and where they can come in. And I think I'll probably be doing more sort of solo outings, because obviously we only meet once a month, all 5 of us. So I'll probably do like a couple of solo things. I've been doing that one where I've been speaking to my pal, giving him like 3 comics, and then we sit and discuss it, getting the comics perspective from someone else. So I think we've kind of got that coming up, and maybe give this brand new mic an actual good outing. So
Where'd that come from?
Oh my!
Get the pixels out. Hold on. Where's that blur button? Hold on. Blur my background.
Oh dear.
I've got to run blur it now. We've had I've just asked people for some questions in chat. We've had one that says, how many urine breaks do you take during your show on average? I'm having one right now. I'm not gonna. No one really actually goes to the toilet today.
Oh, us, yeah. There's like loads of us will just disappear.
Yeah. You're at the pub,
So it's never actually left in, but there is just like loads of moments where we'll all be sitting chatting, and you just hear somebody in the middle of it go, "Just getting up for a wee," and going away. Like nice and loud and proud, lovely.
I think it says a lot about the show is if no one has any idea when someone went to the toilet, because there has, it's obviously the editing's gone all right if no one can tell. But normally it's 7. No, it's no.
Yeah, it's a bit harder in this one because of video, so we definitely know you're peeing.
Yeah. So I've just got an empty mug. I wasn't, for God's sake, I wasn't.
So there is someone in chat called Riptide XXX01. I don't know who.
I wonder who that is.
He wants to know, Vince. I'm guessing he's asking you personally. What's the weirdest thing you've done while recording?
The weirdest thing.
That's a hard one. Has anyone got any weird thing they've done?
No, I don't think. I don't. I mean, in all honesty, even though that's a funny question, I don't think I've done anything too weird. But there has been moments like when I'm making notes, or like I'm trying to sort something out because there's a discussion going on, and I leave the room mentally, and then I come back and just think, what is everyone talking about? Do you know what I mean? And then I have to think, oh, I've got a question to ask, but I'm afraid to ask it just in case someone has already asked it because I haven't been aware of what anyone's aware of for 5 minutes. Yeah, but that's only usually when I've got a lot of things to do or like trying to sort of edit and stuff. But yeah, there's been nothing weird, Tony. I think the weirdest thing was asking Tony Esmond. Any
question?
Yeah. Love you, Tony. Yeah.
You I noticed that sometimes you joke in your podcast where you might be WhatsApping each other silly pictures sometimes. Does that actually happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are moments where you can have. I guess we check a WhatsApp conversation more than we do like a Skype sort of instant message or something like that. And there has been the odd WhatsApp was just popping to the loo, thumbs up, and that person goes and comes back, and then you're like, I'm back, thumbs up, and the guest has no idea. So
Get all the
it's good. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's about it, really. I think it's just, that sort of stuff can be quite funny. Most of the time, I don't check it until after the show, so there's this huge stream of messages that Tony and Dan have done. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. But it can be quite funny, that, I think. But
well, I think that's pretty. Everyone's asking the same thing. Everyone just wants to know the weirdest stories, and I think we've covered them really. Just everyone's the same. Everyone's weird and wants to have a pee.
I mean, let's put it this way: if you were aware of what happened before this show came on air tonight, you look at every single one of these shows completely differently.
Yeah, that was just me crying into a bucket.
You said crying.
Oh.
What about the part where Kate? What about where Kate came along, crawled along, and popped her head up?
That did happen.
That was it.
Oh no! Now she's popping in saying, "Don't be nasty." How does she know? What? No. I think honestly, guys, thank you for putting up with me right at the beginning and making it this far. It's been an hour, just now, and I think I almost died within the first 10 minutes. So
you're fine.
So thank you for
you're
literally telling me to carry on and give it another try. We finally got it going. I don't think there's any more questions in the chat, so I guess I'll just leave it up to you. Do you have any sage advice? One phrase you're allowed to give for your sage advice for someone who's going to start podcasting. It doesn't have to be comic related podcast, but what would you give them?
Just do it.
Yeah, I was thinking just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, just do it. If you're thinking about it, do it.
Just do it.
Well, I've got to edit this later, so I'm definitely going to put that in.
I'd say also be prepared. It is a lot of work, but the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the less work it is. It does become easier, and you learn shortcuts and stuff. But definitely be prepared, because every single person that's spoken tonight is doing these things sort of regularly, and and that's the thing, regular content as well. We all listen to podcasts, and we're always checking out every week our latest episode of whatever show we listen to. And we've all seen everyone start a podcast, give them 6 weeks, and then they're gone. And it's longevity, which is probably the biggest word I've used this evening.
It definitely was more than 2 syllables. So
I know, I can't believe it.
So
don't do it to try and make money.
Oh,
That's
so
the
no.
biggest thing.
No money.
No.
So many people think, we'll have sponsor deals, this, that, and the other.
Well, I avoided that because I knew that Vince was making money off of his deal with Pete, so I just didn't want to upset everyone else.
Hey, can it
Yeah.
But yeah,
I can make as many badges as I want.
yeah, you're lucky if you're making that $9 back, right?
Yeah.
No, I agree. Just perseverance. Don't do it for money. Just have a laugh and enjoy it with your friends. I think that's it.
Yeah, you have to enjoy it. I think that's the main thing. Enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, then don't do it. It's as simple as that. I think with every one of these shows, as soon as we stop enjoying it or it becomes a chore, then we're not going to do it, because we're not being paid for it. So,
Shh,
yeah.
they don't know that. I haven't told people.
That's right. Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, I wasn't the one that dropped the tagline from Nike. It was the other two. So they're
Size 5 in trainers. Size 5.
Size 5. Don't get Nike, they break.
And he would know.
Yeah.
He makes his own shoes. He would know.
So, in the same order that we've done in the morning, if you can remember it, this morning, what am I saying?
It feels
Wow, we've been here a long time.
Where do you want to do one more quick shout out for your podcast so everyone knows where to find you? And links and social and phone numbers,
okay.
email addresses.
Hey, watch yourself. Falling for this. You can find the Awesome Comics. This is where you'll see the presenter button just gets pressed. So you can find the Awesome Comics podcast several different ways. You can find us on iTunes and Spotify and stuff. We are on Podbean, as we said. But it's awesomecomics.podbean.com. On Twitter, this is so weird because I say this every week. On Twitter, we're at the Awesome Pod, and if you want to check out that Facebook group that I talked about earlier, then look up Awesome Comics Talk on Facebook because it is well worth it. It's the only thing I check out on Facebook, really.
Same.
So, yeah. So, and that's where you can find the show. And if you've listened to the show, then you'll find out all the other links and stuff that we do. So, there you go.
Ours is comicartpodcast.uk. Don't look at me like that. You're putting me off.
Well, it's because you won't get it wrong. But carry on.
or the easy Comic Art Festival website as well. It's linked through there. On Twitter is at Comic Art Fest Pod. Yeah, got it.
Well done.
And Facebook and the usual downloads places as well. The usual sites are all over.
You can find That Comic Smell on Twitter and Instagram at That Comic Smell. We are also on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. And you can find my regular segment on the Comic Art Fest pod as well.
Shameless.
Shame.
Yes.
We're
Ring
taking
that
over
bell.
the world. Tony Esmond, do you want to jump on the show as well?
Whoa. But yeah, if you tend to just Google That Comic Smell, it comes up everything for us. So.
Awesome. Well, this is the part where I'd usually tell everyone to subscribe, like the channel and all that stuff, but seeing as we're not on YouTube anymore, it's probably not wise to do that. But if you are watching, I will be putting it onto YouTube once I edit the 30 pieces of content that have all stopped and started over the past hour and a half.
It took podcasts to break a podcast. That says it all.
That's the new name, yeah. So just goodbye. So everyone, thank you. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Everyone.